Good evening and welcome to Thursday night evening live with, well, how many times can I say evening in different ways? Welcome. I'm waiting for my co-host to turn up. I hope they'll be along soon. I'm not even sure if all of them will be here. There's been a few hiccups with people as usual, but we'll see how we get on. My name is Matt Allen. I am founder of Kudos. I wanted to say welcome to everybody. This evening, we are going to be talking about legacy in many ways, shapes, and forms, and really just getting to know each other and finding some friends and talking to the people who come along. So it is lovely to see everybody who's turned up. Hopefully, there'll be some more people coming along soon. I was hoping to pass over to my colleagues, my esteemed colleagues, and get them to introduce themselves, but as they're not here, I shall introduce me a little bit more. So, like I say, my name is Matt Allen, and I'm the founder of Kudos. Some people know what Kudos is. Probably most of the people who are going to turn up this evening do. If you don't know what Kudos is, that's because you and I have not had a chat as yet. You might look at my profile, you might think that you know what it is, and I'll probably ask you when we do have a chat if you know what it is. And then we'll try and figure out whether what you think is actually what it is. And trust me, you're going to be surprised because it's a lot bigger than anything that you can imagine. So one of my colleagues has arrived. He's having a little technical difficulty, which makes a change because that's usually me that's doing that. But we'll see how he gets on. So let me continue. So this evening is about legacy, and it's about really looking at that in different ways in comparison to what's normally talked about, because legacy for most people that I talk to at least is about their individual stamp on the future and what they've enabled for their family or their friends or whoever their loved ones are, or in sometimes even the society that they exist in. I'm hoping to make a bit of a bigger splash. I'm hoping to make a bigger difference, and not just in terms of what I do, but in terms of everybody who is associated to what I do. Again, though, I can't really tell you what that is because we have to have a chat for you to understand what it is that I'm doing. So let's go to a little bit of information from what I think about legacy. So to many people, legacy is leaving something behind. Legacy is something that they've achieved through their lives, and they have managed to square away some of that, some percentage of it, something that they've put away in the bank, some business that they've managed to evolve over the years and put their heart and soul into. Some people see it as a philosophy of their life. Some people see it as a way of thinking that helps their children and their children's children to flourish through life, and the way that they've seen the travel of the years that they've existed and the way that they've succeeded in many ways in their own position. That for me is what most people that I know think of as legacy for the future. But is it really just about the things that we leave behind? Is it just about the things that we think of and the philosophy that we have in life? Or is there a greater thing? Is it more about so many other people rather than just the people that we know on a day-to-day basis, be that our family, our friends, our colleagues, the people who work for us, or the people that we work for? Sometimes we get a little bit blinkered, I think is the right word to use. We look at the world that we exist in, the sphere, whether that's an economic sphere that we exist in, or a family sphere, or the people that we love around us, and we focus on them as we get a little bit older and start to think about the way forward and what we can do for people as we consider the future that may not exist with us in it, and therefore what we can leave behind to remind those people of us and benefit them in some way. Now, I don't believe in dealing with misery and sadness, and I don't want to talk about the eventuality if we're all going to die. That's not the point of this. The point is to continue a beneficial way of thinking about things, passing on something good about what we've done, that we understand about the world, and bringing that for the future of other people. What's the value of that, though, if we don't really exist in that future? We can only hope that we can deliver something that's going to be so consequential that it carries on into future generations. I think that is as well something that I come across when I talk to people. I've been asking people recently about what they think they can do for people in the future, what they think the changes are that people need, what they need in terms of their tangible lives, and resources that we can hope to provide for those people in our lives. Excuse me for a second. So it goes beyond what we can actually deliver for me. It's something that we have to consider about what benefit it leaves for people. I'm going to show a video that I showed first on Monday, premiered on my Monday night positivity show. And this video is talking about legacy. It's talking about some things that I believe and that come from Kudos and social benefit networks, the businesses that I hope to establish and believe will make real positive big changes for the world, and hopefully influence bigger changes as it spreads across different markets in different industries. I'll leave you to watch the video. I hope you'll enjoy it. If you've seen my other videos, you'll know that it's fairly familiar in terms of what it looks like. And then also, as it plays, I will be back in a few minutes. I just need to try and help one of my colleagues, and hopefully we can get somebody else on the show as well, because my voice is already starting to go. It's been a bit of a long day today. Here's the video. So, bit strange, bit different. Talks about many things that we all think in some ways, but it brings it all together in the sense of having a bigger picture of how we can make changes for the future, because that for me is legacy. It's not just about what we do for the people in the future. It's about making that happen now so that then we can all enjoy legacy. We can all look for a future that will benefit us all and help us all to be able to have some input into that, so that then we can establish a future that's beneficial to everybody, that's inclusive of everybody, and takes into account everybody's uniqueness, whilst at the same time including everybody as a unification of all of us together. I quite often talk about miracles because miracles are the things that make things happen that you just wouldn't expect. And when those things happen, we call them miracles. The thing is that we all exist. We're all miracles of our own. And by unifying those miracles of each and every single one of us, that's the way that we can make real change in the world. And then realize the miracle of us all working together. And then when we're all working together and making some pretty big changes, we can enable each other to live our miracles. And then when we're living our miracles, we can leave those miracles for the future. And then that will grow and grow and grow. One of the other things that I like to talk about, and many other people as well, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that I've come up with some of these wonderful analogies myself, but light. Light is something that spreads. Light is something that's powerful. Light is something that is so cutting through the darkness that it makes real change, even though it's tiny and small and insignificant. It's a glimmer of hope. It's a silver lining in a cloud. It's the starlight in the sky where you can only see the one. It's a lighthouse in the dark for the people at sea who are looking to find their way. And light is something that grows quite often. As we start into the night, we see the moon, and then during the morning time, we see the sun rising. I think we've gotten to the point now where there's a certain degree of darkness in our world. And it's about time that we brought more light to that, that we unified some of our miracles, and we use those miracles to bring more and more light to the future. I think that's the way forward. I have a business model that applies that and makes that real thing, brings benefit to anybody and everybody in so many different ways. But if you want to find out about that, you'll have to have a chat with me. So moving on, let's find out what some other people think about legacy. I'm going to bring on, first of all, a lady that I have not chatted with as yet, not face-to-face or camera to camera. So her name is Shauna, if I'm pronouncing that right. I hope she's going to take herself off of mute, and we'll find out who she is and what she does. I'm sure so many of you already know her, but here we go. Good evening.
Hi, Matt. This is so fun.
Is it?
Yeah, it totally is. Because it's usually just me when I do my social media posts, just me talking to an unseen audience. So this is pretty cool.
Okay.
At least I get to see you and talk to you. So hello, everyone. My name is Shauna. I am what's called an energy therapist, and it is a certified program that I took through the Healing Touch program. It is a little different in that it was actually created by a nurse and was only available. It's a continuing education course. It was only available to nurses and doctors. And part of the reason that it kind of appealed to me is it's an accredited program. And so it's just not a weekend course. It is, you get continuing education hours with each course. And it just seemed like it really resonated with me. So that's kind of what I do right now. My background has been everything from, oh my goodness. Right out of high school, I joined the military. So I was doing boot camp at 19. And then fast forwarding, I was in the corporate world for almost 10 years.
Oh, wow.
And dabbled in this and that in between. I'm kind of a Gen X that wants to try everything.
There's nothing wrong with that. Bit of life experience, lived experience.
Yeah.
It's an education in itself.
Definitely. Lots of life experiences as well.
Yeah. So when was it that you did your course?
Oh, yes. So there are more than just one course. So it's a program from level 1 to 5. And I took the very first one in 2007. So level 1, level 2. And at that time, I was just kind of wasn't sure what I wanted to do next. It seemed like a good course. It was provided in the local university. So I thought, okay, I'll check this out, see what it's about.
Yeah.
And I am from Nova Scotia, so my Eastern Canadian accent might start coming out, as I can hear it already. I'm from Calgary, Alberta, which is Western Canada, but every so often when I really start to talk about myself, I can hear my accent starting to come out.
I think that's true for everybody. I've moved around quite a lot in the UK. I don't really sound quite often as though I'm from where I'm from, but I can hear it every time that I speak. Don't worry about that. It's the way everybody hears themselves. So
yes, it's quite interesting. So I took it in 2007, the 2 courses. And then, at that time, what was I doing at that time? Okay, I was working for a chiropractor clinic. So I wanted to get into healthcare, but I wasn't sure yet. Being a massage therapist wasn't really ideal. And I knew I didn't want to be a chiropractor or an acupuncturist. So I thought, okay, well, I'll try energy therapy. But then I just got busy in the admin role of it. And then the years just flew by. And the instructor reached out to me again. It must have been 2017, 2018. And then from there, I'm like, okay, I just stop procrastinating, Sean. I just go for it. So between 2018 to, let me think. So level 3, 4, 5. And then you have to do the certification package. And then if that's approved, then you have to write, and I studied for 4 months for the exam, 100 question exam. And so then if you pass that, then you're in. I can say that I'm certified. But in itself, just taking the course, I really got to learn who I am. Can I go that extra mile? Kind of it ties in with the legacy, with what you're talking about now, and the legacy for me from the past, where I came from, that if you set your mind to something, and that comes from my parents, and my grandparents, that I was taught that way. If you're going to commit to something and you're interested, follow through and finish.
Yeah.
So to say that I'm certified now, in a sense, is a reflection of my family's legacy and what they taught me, because without that, I probably would have dropped. It was a lot of work. It was a lot of work, in a good way, But one of the books that I had to read of 15 that I like to talk about, and it was called Quantum Physics for Dummies. So it was about this thick. I had to read about quantum physics and write a report. I kid you not, no, because there's a lot of science behind it too, with energy medicine. And when people ask me those questions, about the scientific backing, don't ask me now though, because on the spot, I might not be able to remember any facts from quantum physics. But
is it facts, or is it all just philosophy and theory at the moment? I don't know.
Honestly, from when the Healing Touch program itself was developed, even back then, there was a lot of actual scientific theory with it, and studying and measuring of the energy of medicine and how it could help impact the recovery time of what nurses called patients in the hospital.
Yeah.
So it was actually very thoroughly measured and documented, and so
that's exciting. I'm going to bring in one of my co-hosts now.
Sure.
Who finally managed to appear. It isn't the one who was having technical difficulties. This is my brother, Jason Wilson. Do you know Jason?
Not by, maybe once I see his name, I might recognize with the profile. I'm not sure.
Here he comes. Hi, brother.
Hello. Hey, how's it going? I'm here.
Hello,
sorry. Hey, how you doing, Shauna?
Good.
Matt, how's it going? Yes.
I'm good. I was just panicking because I was thinking whether my voice was going to last out for the whole thing.
Man, I'm sorry I'm late.
That'll give me a chance to try and do something about that. So yeah, cool. How are you?
Tired, man. I mean, it's been
a busy week or two for you.
Yeah, really busy, but great. I have no complaints.
And you settled in now? You all sorted out?
We're still getting some things sorted out with deliveries and this and that. I just had a person show up at my house with a delivery man, so that's why I'm late.
I don't know. You people and your technical gadgets that you get delivered every day, and all of your jacuzzis and what was the champagne that were on tap from the local bar that you get delivered every 10 hours or so? Just, caviar on delivery, is it?
No.
Oh, okay. Are you sure you're Jason? So, Jason,
Yes.
I'm going to dump you in it a bit now, since I know you're late, my friend. What's your thoughts about legacy? Have you got some insights for us?
Oh, I had an interesting conversation about this today with my wife, man. And I said that, everything that we're doing right now is for my son and our children's children's children.
Oh.
So, yeah, it's very serious to me. And so everything that I do when it comes to my podcasting company, when it comes to Circle of Friend Club and building this community that I want to have, everything is for him and his future.
Yeah. And it has to be, doesn't it? Like, it's very well and good that we can take an extremely short-term approach and think, well, if I do this job, if I work this set number of hours, if I can get this contract, then that means that I can buy this new car or the caviar that you're eating every day or champagne that we're talking about. It's the economy that works in Colombia, isn't it? But seriously, like, I view the world as we need to think bigger. And a lot of people sort of struggle with life at the moment and just money, let alone thinking about what they can leave behind for their children or what difference they can make in the world. It's difficult enough to be able to think about putting food on the table, caviar in the fridge, water in the jacuzzi, those sort of things. That's the problems that I have with my daily life, I think. So I think it's very difficult for people to envisage some big impact, some big change that they can bring to the world, or even just for their family or their loved ones. I think that's an important thing that we need to not lose sight of, because we keep getting told, well, we'll get there, but for now you just have to knuckle down and live with what you're provided with and struggle through. It's time of austerity is one of the words that they use in the UK quite often. Like, it's time to settle.
Yeah, well, I think, a very, very important point about this, Matt, is that, all of us have creative power, every single last one of us, but not everybody is encouraged to use that power.
Yeah.
So I think that when it comes to that, it's very, very important to have goals. Written goals, and be very, very specific about it. And, along the way, you're going to find that you have to tweak those goals, but as long as you're consistent over a year period, then you'll make it. Yeah.
A year. Yeah. I've only been here 6 months. I've got a lot of work to do, Jason. That can you not dump this? You come along late and then you start telling me that I've got another 6 months worth of work.
I mean, me too, man.
Okay.
We're almost halfway through, which is good.
Are we all in it together?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Okay, that's good then. I feel better about that. So I'm going to introduce another friend, somebody that you know very well, and I was talking to her earlier even. You know who I'm talking about, don't you? And yes. Here she is. Hello, lovely.
Hey, how are you? What's up, buddy?
Cindy, what's going on?
Let me get my camera together. I'm walking around the house because, everyone's here, so.
No problem.
I would just like to point out, Shauna, have you moved house recently at all in the last year?
Me? Yes, absolutely. I have.
Yeah, right. I think there seems to be a thing about people moving house. So I moved house within the last 12 months. You've moved house within the last 12 months. Jason's moved house last week, pretty much, yeah?
Monday, man.
Monday.
Oh,
And then Cindy moved
yeah.
within a couple of weeks. Cindy's like Jason. Jason lives this lifestyle of lobster and caviar and champagne. Cindy's got one of them smart houses. It's not really smart. I was talking to her before. You switch the Wi-Fi on, Cindy, and everything else goes off, doesn't it?
It's not supposed to. As soon as I upload the app and figure out how to, I walk past the thermostat and it lights up. So something's going on.
Are you sure that's the thermostat?
It's the thermostat. I promise it is. It has degrees on there. So.
Okay. Cool. So Cindy, you are what I would term as now at least the second cleverest person in the room, because I'm definitely the least cleverest person in the room. So that makes you at least the second cleverest person. In fact, I don't even think that I'm explaining that very well because I'm so silly. But I think you will have something very insightful to tell us about legacy. So do you want to share something with us?
Sure. So, right. So, I have to say that I'd love to piggyback off of what Jason said in terms of legacy and creativity and being encouraged and having access to really being able to tap into that creativity. I think that legacy is probably something different for all of us. We all have the common understanding of leaving something behind, but I think that legacy is very personal and very specific to all of us, and that it's something that needs to be supported and something that needs to be discussed. But I think that it needs to be approached in a way that meets people where they're at. The line of work that I do, I don't hear much conversation about legacy because I deal in conflict. And so people are much more present in the moment. Than thinking about how that moment will impact generations of theirs to come, or their reputation, for example, in the business. And so I think it's really important that legacy is discussed, but with sensitivity, and meeting folks really at where they're at, in terms of being able to really express what legacy means to them, what achieving legacy means to them, how they access it, things like that.
Yeah. And I think sometimes, because I tend to think of legacy in terms of the future rather than what Shauna was saying about the legacy of her family and what she's been passed through, in the sense of the way that, and if it's fair to say this, like the way that you've driven yourself, or you feel as though you wanted to get something accomplished, and that came possibly from your parents and your past, or is that something wrong to say?
Oh, I think that's right on point. Absolutely. Absolutely. Legacy is something that, would come from your parents, would come from relatives or discussions with close family and close friends. Absolutely. Like I said, it's something that pertains to all of us. We're all mortal, and we all would like to have something, worthwhile, relevant to leave behind, I'm sure. It's just a matter of what that is to the individual, how they access that, how they particularly see that for themselves. Um, you know, because there are folks out here who, perhaps don't have children, perhaps don't have families. COVID has, hit a lot of folks deeply, and people have lost important folks in their lives. And so that's why I speak of legacy in terms of a very sensitive topic to kind of broach to folks, particularly post pandemic, just because I do know that there's still a lot of pain going on out there, and there's a lot of concerns about the present, and if there are concerns about the present, what does that mean for the future? And so, yeah, that's kind of where that comes from. Again, I deal in conflict. So this is what I kind of hear regularly from clients is, what does what I'm going through right now mean for me right now, much less what does it mean for my children, my grandchildren, what does it mean for extended family, things like that. What
Yeah.
does it mean for my business, my reputation? What do people think of me? Yeah, so it can be a very sensitive and often painful topic if people don't feel quite prepared or they don't feel supported in trying to achieve those legacy goals. I recently did a post that um, touched on this a little bit that I actually stole from my pastor about 300 asks of God, 300 things that we ask of our Creator, which seemed overwhelming. 300, like that's hard to come up with, 300 things to ask of God that you would like to achieve in your life. And he broke it down into about 10 categories that covered faith and family and friends and spirituality and finances and career and things like that, and made it much more manageable. But it is a really, really good idea, like Jason was talking about, in terms of having lists and really writing things down and being able to see what it is that you're trying to achieve. It's extremely instrumental, particularly I think on this topic of legacy, because it's all about goal setting. It's all about asking for things that you want to see happen in your life and checking on that list, checking in for progress, excuse me, and being able to, check off and date accomplishments off of that list. That could be legacy to someone. Just having the list done could be substantial legacy, to an individual. So it's a great topic.
Yeah. Well, legacy for me, and I mentioned this to Jason and Clifford and Marcus when we were deciding what to do this week. It's coming across to me as a subject that there's a lot of people who are interested in as a subject and how it impacts on their lives. And I don't know whether that's because things are getting detracted from people and they feel as though they're losing the control over what they can deliver in terms of that, or whether it's because they want to strive for something more, and so they see that as something to talk about to sort of help to generate it amongst ourselves through stimulating the idea, if you like. But it definitely seems like something that more and more people want to talk about. Or maybe that's because it's just a subject that I talk about. Maybe it's just my influence that's making it generate. I don't know. What about you, Shana? Because you and I don't know each other particularly well. Sorry. So I don't even know who your friends are. Well, I call them friends, like on LinkedIn connections, whatever you want to call that. But what about the people that you come into contact with? Do they talk about legacy and stuff like that currently, or is that not really that sort of subject for you?
Honestly, it's not really a subject that comes up very often. Often, if I'm in conversation with anyone, here on the LinkedIn friends, for example, they're talking about the here and the now, kind of the present day with whatever it is they're working on, whether it's their business or their life or their projects or their health, that sort of thing. Not really talking about and what I would refer to as long-term legacy, whether it was the past or what they're building for the future with what they'll leave behind. Great question, though. Yeah, maybe from today, I'm certainly I'm motivated and inspired to initiate these kind of conversations for sure. Something that we all should really think about, maybe a bit more often.
Yeah. Well, the thing is that, like you said before, it's coming from our past and it affects our present, and it will very much affect our future, I think. I believe very strongly myself that the future is now, really. We influence that from what we do and how we think about things and the changes that we make every single minute, if we are capable of doing that, or however often we view that as a change that we've made. And we've talked a little bit about setting goals and writing out the things that we want to achieve within a year. Still got another 6 months.
Hey,
but I
Matt.
think, yeah.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No.
I wanted to, I was just thinking about, we're kind of all on the same page in terms of addressing legacy, and that, current conversation isn't really being had about legacy. People are kind of caught up in their day-to-day and present tense. And I'm wondering if you've noticed any change in perception of legacy, achievement of legacy, conversations around legacy, pre versus post pandemic.
Yeah. So people on LinkedIn, I didn't know anybody on LinkedIn before the pandemic, because I wasn't here before the pandemic. And I didn't really have a lot of friends because probably I didn't get to do this, first of all. And secondly, I was ill a lot of the time. So I can only talk really about my experience. And my experience was that before the pandemic, I wasn't really stirred up to do much at all. I was trying to achieve things, but the pandemic gave me, and I guess many people, a bit more time to sort of reflect and think about things. And looking at the world as a whole, I look at things like people walking out from their jobs and looking for something different as a sort of social proof that we want change. We want something different, and not just for today and tomorrow, in the sense of we want to stop wearing masks if that was what people wanted, or we want to be able to go and buy as much toilet roll as we want without being told, no, you can only buy 2 pieces, or whatever the case might have been. During the pandemic, there was a lot of limitations put on people. And post-pandemic, for me, is a lot more about taking back ownership and control of our own lives. And the flip to that is that in many respects, the governments and the big companies, they want to take more control from us. I think that's pushing us towards the change scenario that we face at the moment. What about you guys? Jason?
Yeah, I think that's right on point, Matt. I think that's the cause for a lot more people thinking about entrepreneurship as well, which I think is great.
Yeah.
So when it comes to everything that I want to create, it's got to be done through entrepreneurship. And I encourage anybody to start a company, because you're not guaranteed a legacy, anything to leave behind if you're at a company, right? But if you can start one yourself, you have a chance.
Amen to that.
Yeah. So I'm going to bring you on our other guest this evening, because I've forgotten that she was there. And that's not because I've forgotten about her. It's just that I can't do everything all at once, and my eyes can't see the things. Amber, I'm sorry. Please come and join me.
Hey,
How you doing?
I'm used to being left out here by myself. That's okay.
Oh, don't say it like that.
I'm just playing. It's all right, really. I don't mind coming in last, because then it kind of gives me food for thought the whole way. So like I can change up whatever I was gonna say. If somebody's already said it, I have time to kind of rework
I'd like
it.
to point out, Jason, in between eating his caviar and his chips and stuff, he's pointed out that we've got 6 months to be able to figure out what we need to do, Amber. So, like, no pressure. You've got a bit of time. Okay.
6 months. That's not a lot of time, Jason. That's like really tight.
No, wait.
It's a little tight, but listen, anything is possible with God. He can work it out in 24 hours if that's what's required. So 6 months is plenty of time.
Let me tell you, Amber, I have gone from 0 connections on LinkedIn. I have gone from no office space. I've gone from no paperwork for my business. I've gone from no friends, no validation, no interest in what I'm doing, no money, no contacts who reach out to me every single day to say, Matt, carrying on what you're doing. Fair enough, I work quite hard compared to what I was doing before, but I think it's possible to achieve anything within 6 months. When I look back compared to before, I just had an idea that I was talking to a few friends and family about, because I really didn't think that I had any opportunity to be able to do it. And then I spent the first 2 months of the last 6 months being told, no, you can't do that. If you're going to do that, that's going to be very difficult. It's impossible. You shouldn't even try. And I thought, you know what? I'm going to try, because I'm not getting told by the people who I don't want to listen to that it's not going to work. And then here I am talking to all of you wonderful people, and so many others as well. Anything is possible. It's taken me a little bit more than 24 hours, Jason, but you keep putting timescales on things that I don't think are achievable, my friend. Hey, I'll see what I do within the next 24 hours and see where we get to there. Huh?
I mean, I have big goals. And 6 months is a little. That's a heavy fast track. I don't think I can exact that much change that quickly. I'd love to think that I could, but what I want to do involves politicians and the entire country, and that's going to take more than 6 months. At least here, it's going to take a lot more than 6 months. But I can make a dent.
Make some friends and ask them.
Oh, I'm going to, but
that's what I would strongly suggest.
I just don't. You're not. The way we're divided right now, we don't have the numbers to pass what we would need to get that done. Like the fact that the House is now controlled by the GOP, they're never going to overturn our healthcare system. And that's what I want to do, is completely dismantle it and install universal healthcare. And they're not going to do that. Not the group that we have right now. I literally will have to wait till the next vote. Okay. But I can make a lot of headway between now and then. And I can do stuff at the state level, at the individual level, so that what gets implemented here can kind of look as a stepping stone to launch off at the federal level. It's a try. We got to do something. We got to do something.
Someone has to do it, Amber. This is wonderful. And it's nice to actually see you. We're connected, but I haven't met you.
Well, I tend to stay hidden quite often unless it's Matt's show, and then Matt brings me on actually quite a bit, so I've gotten a bit more exposure that way. Usually,
I understand if you're working with politicians, so I get.
Well,
that.
I mean, I'm usually in an audio room, and I'm looking at a podcast right now that's really going to start talking about the different bills and kind of analyzing. Each podcast would kind of break down, okay, if they're bringing a bill about women's health care, this is the language that they're using. This is the harms that could be caused. Like, granted, this is what the outcomes that they're looking for, but these are also the harms, and these are the people that are going to be harmed, that are already being harmed, and now you're multiplying that, so that maybe we have some intelligence brought to the table about what they're making the bills about. And
it would be
or at least if
if
they're being biased, they make it flat out. Like, if you're going to be biased, if you're going to be racist and discriminatory in your bills, be transparent. Like, tell the people that's really what you want to do. If you really want to take the rights away from women again, then go ahead and just tell us that we're not worth it. Because that'll push us to be at the ballot box. And right now, that's the incentive that we need.
And that's exactly why they would never say it. And that's why we would never have a woman at the table.
That's the reason why we don't have women at the table. But the Gen Z generation is not putting up with that. And we're already seeing what they're doing. And I'm very glad. My kids are that group. And my kid was at the symposium for art history last week in New York, and with a bunch of undergraduates across the globe. And all these undergraduates were all about minority this and diversity that and equality this, or the inequality in the past, or taking away colonialism. Like, every single project was about change, was about exposing the hypocrisies of the past and bringing forward. Like, my daughter did an artist that is a Cree Indian, and what he does is he reproduces art from the 17th to 19th centuries that depicted the indigenous in Canada as the aggressor. And he's painting it in historical correctness, which was whitewashed, and that they were actually the ones being oppressed. And so he is rewriting history with his artwork. And that was what my daughter's piece was on. But again, that is what everybody is kind of, that generation is about. Like, they've watched us and the adults in the room say we're going to do something, and we've done nothing. And I think we're finally seeing enough momentum. When you look at those young politicians in Tennessee, when you look at Maxwell Frost in Florida, you're seeing politicians that actually want to create change for the people that voted them in, not for their own pocket, not for their own wallet or their own power, but they're actually helping the people that said, you know what, I want to feel safer in my community. Do something about it. So that gives me hope compared to the arguing that we get right now, the banter that we get right now, which is all political garbage. Like, it's fluff. It's fluff to distract you from, hey, while we're doing this, we're going to strip this right away from you.
Yeah.
While you're not looking. And that's what, or we're just going to do this instead of actually tackling problems that you're asking us to do. We're going to talk about gaslight talking points that none of us are like really flipping out about. I don't know anybody who's running around my state going, oh my gosh, there's boys in the girls' pool. Nobody's doing that, but they're telling you that everybody's freaking out about it.
Well, it's a culture war.
15.
That's
They're
the
15
focus.
in my state. 15 in my state. And they're making laws right now to ban them.
Yeah.
Because of 15 kids. 15 kids. Like, really? These kids are the ones that are going to vote you out. Just remember
This
that.
is the big problem, though, is that, well, there's a few big problems with this. Number one is that we only really try and it's not trying, but we can only deal with things local, and we don't have a world stage to be able to suddenly change the things that we need to change across the world. The second problem is that it is a worldwide problem. Most of you guys are from the US or that side of the world, whereas I'm over in Europe, and quite often there's a bit of a disconnect between the two, and yet there are so many similarities and so many parallels in the sense that we're all fed the same sort of nonsense and the same sort of hate that we have to abide by, that we think that we hate everybody else, and because of that we hate ourselves. I was having a chat with a guy called Meli the other day, who's Turkish and lives in America. And we were saying about the fact that we all get told one thing or another, but really we are all familiar with the fact that most of what we get told is created by these people at the top, and not necessarily even the figureheads that, again, we sort of point at and say, oh yeah, well, we don't like them, or we hate them, or we hate that policy. But it's not even those people who are making those policies, it's the people behind them that don't get elected in, and they really drive the things that happen in our world. And that's often through the cause of money and power and the control of people to be able to achieve those things. I think until we've established some sort of system that helps us to remove some of that grander control on a bigger scale, then we're going to find that hard to overcome. So that's what I sort of meant earlier by the fact of we're all our own individual miracles, and we all have our own little points of view and our own build up. And if you look at the video, it talks a bit about our own characteristics and our own, if you want, our own fingerprint, our own identity, our own uniqueness. But the fact that we're all one, even you guys over in America, Jason down in where is it? Lobster World.
Colombia,
that's it, yeah. So, and then over here in the UK, and I speak to people over in Australia, I speak to people in Malaysia and the Philippines and all over the world. And really it is pretty much the same everywhere. Like, my wife is Russian, and we get told that life in Russia is appallingly bad by the government and on the news. And the simple fact of the matter is that they have more food on their shelves than what we have in our local supermarket. And certainly the prices for that stuff is certainly a lot better than the prices that we've got to pay. And the rise in price is much smaller proportionately to the inflation rate that we have to deal with here in the UK, and I'm sure many of your countries as well. It's all about control and manipulation and things like that. I think those are the things that if we can find an idea that might be able to change a bigger set of those things, maybe that's something that we should all get on board with. But I think that I'm preaching to the converted. I think possibly, Shauna, you're the only person who doesn't know what I do. So, yeah, I am a little bit conscious of the time. We are getting towards the end of the evening. So you will see that in the comments, there is a gentleman called Russ Hedge. I bring up Russ Hedge because my co-host is going to be going off to be on Russ's show next. I imagine that you're going to turn up on time for him, but that's fine. So do you want to tell people a little bit about that? Because I am all about Russ Hedge. Russ Hedge is one of my brothers, like you are, Jason. So if people would like to go and find out some things about what he's doing this evening, do you want to tell people what you're up to?
Okay, so on Russ's show, we're going to be talking about mental health, which is, my wheelhouse. That's what I love to talk about. That's what the show is about.
Mental health.
Yes.
That's all that you can. Is it one of those surprise shows where we turn up and it's a lot more than that? Because if it's just them two words and you lot are going to sit there and say mental health, there's Noopy, there's you, there's for me. I can never.
Yeah, I mean, I expect everybody to have a different perspective on this. Mine is going to be more spiritually based, so I cannot wait to talk about that. Looking forward to it.
Good. Okay. If anybody wants to go to Russ's show afterwards, if you head over to my profile on LinkedIn, just click on that and you'll see one of my last posts was about Russ's show. If you know Russ and you've not gone to his page recently, go to his page. I'm sure you can find the link for it there. I've tried putting links in the chat, but my links come up as YouTube links for some unknown reason, so I don't think anybody can see anything that I post in the chat. So my apologies for that. I just want to end on the simple fact of this. Number one, thank you everybody for turning up, for coming along, for giving support, for commenting on my hair and my tie. It's very nice of you. I'm partially sighted, so if it does look a mess, then I'm sort of at liberty to take what you're saying literally, and you think that I'm looking good, then I'll probably keep turning up like this. So the other thing, much more important, is that I appreciate you all being here. This is the format of the show. We've been running now for a number of weeks, I think, Jason, maybe even 6 or 7 weeks, possibly. So generally what happens is that there's usually me, there's no escape from me, but one of the other guys, either Jason or Clifford or Marcus, or sometimes all three of us will turn up. Sorry, all three of you, 4, including me. I have this problem with numbers recently. I don't know why. If I can't see my fingers, then I can't count them, and my eyesight's pretty bad this evening, so I have no chance. 6 months. I don't know if I'm going to work that out. That's a whole load of fingers. Anyway, I think the important thing is that we generally have a little bit of a chat at the beginning. I've done a bit of a monologue this evening. I did last time as well. But we have a bit of a chat amongst ourselves about what we want to talk about the subject that we're covering. And then we invite people along afterwards. If people get to see the StreamYard link, come in, have a chat, tell us a little bit about yourselves, and then tell us what you think about the subject, and we can have a more informed conversation from different points of view, because that's what I think is important nowadays, is that we all get to hear everybody's opinion rather than just one person sitting in a audio room or in a live like this, and it's just one person talking to the other, and it's a bit narrow conversation. I like to introduce other people and try and invite along some people who can bring not necessarily vastly different opinions, but opinions that come from slightly different angles and considerations. Because if we don't think about other people's point of view, then it's not a legacy, it's just a dictatorship. Well, I think we're having enough of that from some of the powers that be at the moment. As people, we need to understand each other's uniqueness, understand each other's abilities and differences, be welcoming of those and accepting, and then we can move forwards and find the right way forward for society, a group of people together who are interested in peace and joy and love and unity, because those are the things that matter to all of us, and not just to us, but to ourselves, to our friends, to our families, to our communities. And whether that community is just this group of people here, or people in a country like the US or the UK or wherever else that might be, or the whole world, and changing the legacy for the future for all of us. So on that point, I'd like to remind everybody that you are the miracle. I'm going to play my video again. Is there anything that anybody would like to say other than goodbye?
Thank you.
Thank you,
Yes,
Matt.
thank you so much.
Thank you.
I have one
You're
thing
also
that
polite.
this whole conversation made me think of. Ants in a bottle, red and black ants living peacefully in a bottle until someone shakes the bottle, and
Yeah.
then they go to war with each other. If we can focus on who shook the bottle, we'll be fine.
Oh, yeah. I very much agree with that, Cindy. Cindy does some amazing posts, everybody. I would just like to point out that if you are not connected to Cindy, well, if you're not connected to anybody who's in the chat, just get connected to them. The people that I know, you should know. If I don't know somebody that you know that is very interesting, that wants to talk about these sort of subjects and many other things beyond, please put me in touch with them, because I love to connect and talk to people, find out about them, find out about what they do, and maybe share a little bit about Kudos. Thank you all. Here's the video. See you all next week.
Thank you.